I still remember the way the nurse looked at me, kind, but confused, when she told me the blood types didn't match. It didn't make sense. I've been Dan Miller my whole life, and Brad's been my son for 27 years. There wasn't a doubt in my mind, not until that moment in the hospital when they told me I couldn't donate blood to him because we weren't a biological match. My name is Dan. I'm 56 years old. I live in Akron, Ohio. And until that afternoon in the hospital, I believed I was the father of 3 incredible kids. Brad had been admitted for appendicitis. Routine stuff. But during intake, the staff ran some cross-checks on family blood types to prepare for a possible transfusion. I offered mine without hesitation. That's when they flagged it. No genetic match. I tried to play it off, mistakes happen, right? Maybe a data entry thing? But it stuck in my head. I didn't sleep that night. Something about the nurse's voice, the hesitation in her tone, the way she double-checked her screen, it stayed with me. And by morning, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I didn't say anything to Arlene, my wife. Not yet. Instead, I quietly ordered DNA tests for all 3 of our children. I told Arlene it was a just-in-case thing, family medical history, future preparedness. She bought it. At least, I thought she did. The results came in a week later. Brad, not mine. Janice, our middle child, also not mine. Only Mandy, our youngest, matched my DNA. I stared at the reports for hours. Names, percentages, bloodlines reduced to bar graphs and numbers. My whole world, 30 years of birthdays and bedtime stories and scraped knees, reduced to a PDF on my laptop screen. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat in my truck in the driveway for nearly 3 hours, gripping the steering wheel with both hands like it was the only thing keeping me anchored. 2 nights later, Arlene found the printed test results in my desk drawer. I walked in from the garage and saw her sitting on the couch, the papers in her lap. Her face was pale. She didn't speak for a full minute. Then she just said, "I didn't think you'd ever ask." I didn't know what to say. She confessed to an affair. One affair, she said, years ago. A mistake. A brief, stupid chapter. But 2 of the kids? That wasn't a mistake. That was a pattern. I moved into the guest bedroom that night. Took only what I needed. A pillow, a couple pairs of jeans, my shaving kit. Arlene cried as I walked down the hall. I didn't. I was too busy wondering what else I didn't know. Wondering who I had been to these children all these years, and who they really belonged to. The only thing I knew for sure was that nothing would ever be the same again. The morning after Arlene's confession, I woke up on the guest bed with my back aching and a weight in my chest I couldn't shake off. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, listening to the faint clinking of her making coffee in the kitchen, like it was just any other Saturday. Like she hadn't just detonated our entire marriage. She didn't speak to me that day. Not until I walked in after mowing the lawn, because for some reason, I still did it, still kept the routine like it meant something. She was at the sink rinsing dishes that didn't need rinsing. It wasn't just some random guy, she said without turning around. I leaned against the doorframe. Who was it? She shut the water off and dried her hands. Harvey. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Harvey? As in Harvey, my best friend? Harvey who used to sleep on our couch when he and Brenda split. She nodded. Slowly. Like she thought going slow would make it sting less. I sank into the kitchen chair like the air had left the room. How long? Her eyes were glassy, but she didn't cry. It started the year after Janice was born. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It was a mistake. You don't get to call a multi-year affair with my best friend a mistake. I ended it, she said quickly. It was over before Mandy was born. She's yours, Dan. I swear she is. I didn't respond. Not because I believed her. I'd already seen the results. But because something inside me was splitting, and I needed it to be quiet while it happened. She took a deep breath. One of the pregnancies wasn't. It wasn't entirely consensual. I didn't want it. I looked at her then, hard. Are you saying he forced you? She looked away. I'm saying I didn't know how to say no. Back then, things were different. No, I said, shaking my head. Things weren't different. You were. You lied. You built our whole life on this lie. I was scared. I thought if I told you, I'd lose everything. You already did. I walked out before she could answer. That became our new rhythm. Silence in place of arguments, avoidance instead of apologies. We still lived under the same roof, but she stayed on her side of the house, and I stayed on mine. At night, I'd lie in the guest bed staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering how long I'd been living in a story someone else was writing. Arlene begged to move past it, told me love was still there, that we could rebuild. But I wasn't interested in rebuilding lies. Not anymore. It happened a week later. I was in the garage, fixing the loose trim on Mandy's old dresser, trying to stay busy, trying to keep my hands moving so my thoughts wouldn't catch up to me, when the phone rang. It was the sheriff's office. A single vehicle accident. Late night. Rain-slicked road. They found Arlene's license in her purse. I dropped the screwdriver and sat down on the concrete floor. I don't remember how long I sat there. Long enough for the light outside to shift, long enough for the numbness to harden into something worse. The official report came in 2 days later. Her car had veered off Route 7, down an embankment. No alcohol, no substances, just wet pavement and high speed. The coroner ruled it an accident. No note, no sign of intention, but I knew something was wrong. She hadn't said goodbye. Not to me, not to the kids. She hadn't even kissed Mandy's forehead that morning, and Arlene never skipped that, not even when she was mad. People came around. Friends, neighbors. Some of them had no idea anything was wrong between us. They brought casseroles and hugs I didn't want. I sat through the funeral like a statue. The kids cried. I held Mandy's hand. Brad and Janice stood stiff beside me. I watched the casket lower and wondered if Arlene had been trying to outrun the truth, or if it had just swallowed her whole. After it was all over, I walked the perimeter of the house that night, like I had done 100 times before. The porch light was on, flickering slightly. Her wind chimes moved gently in the breeze, like she was still here. I wanted to hate her, but grief doesn't follow rules. It's not clean. You can love someone and still feel betrayed. You can miss them and still be angry they ruined you. I didn't tell the kids about the DNA tests. Not then. I couldn't. Not while they were grieving their mother. I let them keep that version of her, the woman who made cinnamon rolls on Sundays and sang off-key in the car. I went back to sleeping in the guest room. I couldn't stand the bed we used to share. Too many memories in the sheets. Too many ghosts in the silence. The truth hadn't died with Arlene. It just went quiet. And I wasn't ready to let it speak again. Not yet. That fall, the house felt too big. Too quiet. The only sounds were the ones I didn't want to hear. The creak of the hallway where Arlene used to walk barefoot. The hum of the fridge where her shopping lists used to hang. Grief doesn't move out. It settles in. Lives in the corners. Thanksgiving came and went. The kids visited, tried to pretend everything was normal. Mandy brought a pie and forced a smile. Brad barely looked me in the eye. Janice didn't stay the night. They meant well, but I could feel the space between us widening. Then one night, about 3 weeks before Christmas, I was watching TV with the volume too low when a commercial came on. One of those charity spots. Children in coats too thin, sleeping on floors, smiles too wide for what little they had. I stared at the screen longer than I meant to. That night, I called Pastor Evan, who still ran the old food drive down at Grace Baptist. You know anybody who needs help? I asked. Not just food, something more. A little boost. He didn't hesitate. There's a woman, Selena. Just moved into town with her 3 little ones. Working nights at Mel's Diner. Trying to keep things together. Single. Widowed. Left Detroit to get away from a bad situation. Gang stuff. She's real private. That week, I stopped by Mel's for lunch. I didn't tell her why I was there. Just sat at the counter and ordered a tuna melt. She was thin, worn out around the eyes, but polite. Real careful with her words. The way people get when they're used to hearing no. I heard you've got kids, I said as she poured my coffee. Need anything for Christmas? Her eyes narrowed a little. Why are you asking? No reason. Just thought maybe I could help. She didn't answer right away. Then she nodded toward the window booth. They're not picky, but they miss lights on the tree. Never had a real one. A few days later, I showed up at their apartment with a tree strapped to my truck bed and a box of ornaments from the attic. The building was run down, 3rd floor walk up. You could hear the neighbors fighting through the walls. Selena opened the door in a sweatshirt 2 sizes too big. Her youngest, Molly, clung to her leg with one hand and held a toy dinosaur in the other. This is too much, she said, looking at the tree. It's just a tree, I shrugged. Call it a gift. No strings. Her boys, Jeremy and Caleb, helped me carry it up. I watched them hang plastic stars like they were gold. They didn't ask questions. They just smiled like they hadn't in a long time. After that, I stopped by more often. Once with groceries. Once with a set of winter coats. A few used books I found in a box downstairs. I wasn't trying to fix their lives. I just liked being around. Selena never asked for more than I offered. And every time I left, the house didn't feel quite as heavy. There was something in her silence that matched mine. And in her children's laughter, I heard something I hadn't in months, hope. Not loud, but enough to notice. Enough to keep coming back. It was Mandy who suggested Thanksgiving. Why don't you invite them? She said over the phone one afternoon. Selena and the kids. I mean, you've been spending all this time with them. I hesitated. I don't want to make things weird. You've already got a tree in their living room, Dad. I think weird's already passed. So I called Selena. She was quiet for a moment. I could hear dishes clinking in the background, a kid arguing with someone about a toy. I don't know, Dan, she said finally. I don't want to intrude. You're not intruding, I said. You're invited. That's different. She still hesitated, but she said yes. That morning, I was up early, basting a turkey like Arlene used to, watching the kitchen clock like it owed me something. I kept checking the driveway, nervous in a way I couldn't explain. Not like a date. Not like family either. Somewhere in between. They arrived around 1. Selena wore a dark green sweater and her hair was pulled back. The kids came barreling through the door with wrapped paper turkeys they'd made at school. Mandy was already there, arranging pies. She gave me a look, half surprised. Dad, she said under her breath, they're adorable. Yeah, I said, watching Caleb try to figure out the recliner. They grow on you. We all sat down at the table, the big one I hadn't used since Arlene passed. It still had the same scratch from when Brad dropped a casserole dish back in '09. I looked at Selena across the table, lit by the same soft light I used to see on Arlene's face. After dinner, the kids scattered to the living room, chasing each other around with little felt footballs. Mandy helped Selena wash dishes. I stayed back, clearing the table, listening to them talk softly in the kitchen. Later, after everyone had eaten too much pie and the kids were curled up on the couch watching a cartoon, Selena and I stepped out on the porch for air. The cold hit fast, but we didn't move. She turned to me. Thank you. For today. For everything. You don't owe me anything, I said. I know, she said, looking down at her shoes. That's what makes it feel different. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was the pie, or the way her voice softened when she spoke to Mandy. But I leaned in. Not fast. Not pushy. Just close. She met me halfway. The kiss was quick, almost hesitant. When it ended, she stepped back fast, her face flushing. She started, then shook her head. I shouldn't have done that. No, I said, suddenly worried. I shouldn't have. It's not you, she said, pulling her coat tighter. It's me. I'm not sure I'm ready. She turned, opened the door, and called for the kids. Within minutes, they were all bundled up and piling into her car. I stood there on the porch after they pulled away, wondering if I'd just ruined something that had barely begun. But the next morning, she called, and her voice was shaking. Dan, she said, we got robbed last night. Everything's gone. I don't know where to go. I didn't even hesitate. Come here, I said. Bring the kids. You're not alone. They moved in that same night. Selena pulled up just after 9, headlights cutting across the driveway like a searchlight. The kids were half asleep in the back seat, bundled in hoodies and wrapped in blankets. Jeremy carried a pillow under one arm and a plastic bin of toys under the other. Caleb had his stuffed tiger tucked under his chin. Molly clung to Selena like a koala. I'm sorry, she whispered as I helped them inside. I didn't know who else to call. Don't apologize, I said. This is your home now. She looked at me like she wanted to argue, but she was too tired to push back. That first night, I made up beds in the spare room and my old office. The boys camped out on the floor with sleeping bags. Selena and Molly took the guest room, the one I used to sleep in after Arlene, and I stopped sharing a bed. Funny how life works. I thought I'd never feel peace in that house again. And now it was full of noise. Laughter. Cartoons in the morning and spilled cereal in the kitchen. The next few weeks were a blur of adjustment. Selena insisted on contributing immediately, folding laundry, scrubbing the baseboards, cooking dinner most nights with what little we had on hand. This isn't charity, she said one night, spooning chili into bowls. I can pull my weight. You don't have to prove anything, I said. She just gave me a look. Yeah, I do. I understood. We fell into a routine without even trying. I'd do the morning school drop-off while she prepped breakfast. She'd work part-time at Mel's Diner in the afternoons, and I'd pick the kids up and help with homework. Dinner was always a family affair. Elbows on the table, kids arguing over who got the last roll, Selena scolding them gently, but with a smile she didn't have when I met her. One night, Jeremy called me Uncle Dan by accident. Then he caught himself, blushed, and said, Sorry, I mean just Dan. But I saw the way his eyes stayed on mine. I didn't correct him. The next day, Molly started calling me Uncle Dan too. Though to be fair, she called the toaster Uncle Toaster, so I tried not to read into it. Still, something shifted. Something small but steady. Selena sat across from me one night after the kids had gone to bed. We were sipping tea in the quiet kitchen, soft music playing from the radio. She looked tired, but calm in a way I hadn't seen before. "This isn't what I planned," she said. "I know. I thought I'd be on my own forever. That I'd keep surviving one month to the next, just trying to stay upright." "You're not just surviving anymore," I said. She looked at me then, long and searching. "Do you ever think about what this is? I mean, really think about it? What we are?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't want to scare her with the truth, that I'd been thinking about it since the first time I saw her tuck Molly's hair behind her ear, since I saw how her kids smiled around her, since I saw my own heart start beating again after a year of feeling like a ghost. "You matter to me," I said. "All of you." She nodded slowly. Her eyes welled up, but she blinked them clear. "I care about you too, Dan. More than I thought I would." And just like that, something settled. No contracts. No expectations. Just two people figuring out how to rebuild a life. Not from scratch, but from the broken pieces that didn't quite fit before. And now, somehow they did. It was Mandy who said it first. She and Janice pulled into the driveway one Saturday afternoon, unannounced, with grocery bags and matching suspicious looks. Brad showed up 20 minutes later, claiming coincidence, but his crossed arms and tight jaw gave him away. "We need to talk," Janice said, barely waiting for the front door to close. Selena was upstairs folding laundry. The kids were in the backyard playing with a water hose. "All right," I said. "Let's talk." Mandy glanced at Janice, who gave her a nod like they'd rehearsed this in the car. "We're worried, Dad." "About what?" "About this." She gestured vaguely toward the kitchen, where dishes from lunch were still drying on the rack. "Selena, the kids, everything." Brad leaned against the counter. "You're moving fast. You barely had time to grieve, and now you've got a whole new family living here." "They needed a place to stay," I said calmly. "And I didn't exactly have a waiting list for the guest room." "Are you in love with her?" Janice asked, blunt as ever. I paused. "I care about her. I care about the kids." "That's not an answer," Brad muttered. Mandy sat at the table, her fingers drumming on the wood. "We just want to make sure you're not being taken advantage of." "Because what? A woman with kids couldn't possibly care about me unless she wanted something?" Mandy winced. "That's not what I meant." I took a deep breath. I hadn't planned on saying it. I wasn't even sure I ever would. But something in the room, maybe the way they looked at me, unsure and protective, pushed it out of me. "I'm not your biological father." Silence dropped like a hammer. Brad's face went white. Janice blinked like she hadn't heard me right. Mandy's jaw tightened. "What?" Brad said, almost a whisper. I nodded. "I found out when you were in the hospital. They were doing a routine blood screen. My type didn't match. I had all three of you tested. Only Mandy's mine." Janice covered her mouth. Mandy stared straight ahead. Brad just shook his head, stunned. "So all this time," Janice began, but she couldn't finish. "I didn't tell you before because your mom died. And it didn't feel right to put that on you then." Mandy's voice cracked. "Why now?" "Because you're questioning whether I know what family means. And I need you to understand, I do. I raised you. I stayed up when you had fevers. I went to your ball games and drove you to prom and helped you fill out college apps. I've been your dad in every way that counts." Brad's eyes were red now. "And we didn't know. Because it didn't change anything. Not for me." Janice stood up and walked across the room. She hugged me first. Then Brad did. Then Mandy. No one said much. Just held on. A few minutes later, Selena came down the stairs, laundry basket in hand. She paused at the sight of us all, red-eyed, quiet, strangely peaceful. Mandy looked at her. "You hungry?" Selena blinked. I could eat." "Good," Mandy said. "Because you're family now too. Like it or not." And for the first time in a long time, I saw all my children born, found, chosen, together in one room. No blood test could define what that meant. Christmas morning came quiet and cold, the yard covered in a fresh sheet of snow that softened every sound. The kids were up early, of course, Jeremy bouncing down the stairs, Caleb tripping over his own excitement, and Molly trailing behind them in fuzzy socks 2 sizes too big. Selena and I stood in the kitchen, sipping coffee while the tree glowed in the next room. its lights blinking slow and steady. I'd never seen this house so full since before everything changed. And maybe that's why I'd planned what I did. Each kid got a gift, wrapped just for them. Jeremy tore into his first, a new football, signed by his favorite quarterback. No way, he breathed. Caleb got a Lego police station, complete with lights and a tiny squad car. Awesome, he yelled, already tearing open the box. Molly opened hers slowly, reverently, a soft stuffed unicorn with a rainbow mane. She smells like cookies, she whispered, hugging it tight. Selena watched them from the couch, her face lit by the tree and the joy in their laughter. I waited until the kids were distracted building, tossing, squealing. Then I handed her the small box. Her brow furrowed. Dan, open it. She peeled back the wrapping, careful and slow. Inside was a velvet box. She didn't open it right away, just stared at it like it might explode. When she finally flipped it open, she gasped. Inside was a gold band, simple but elegant. Not flashy, just real. I want you to have this, I said, kneeling awkwardly beside the coffee table. Not because I'm trying to rescue you, and not because I want to fix everything. I'm asking because I love you, and I love them, and I want to build something that lasts. The room went quiet. The kids paused, watching us now. Even Molly tilted her head like she knew something big was happening. Selena stared at the ring for a long moment. Her eyes welled up, and she gently closed the box. Dan, she said softly, I can't. My heart sank. I started to nod, to pull back, but she reached for my hand. Not because I don't want to be with you. I'm not ready. Not for marriage. Not yet. I need to feel like we're standing side by side, not like you're carrying me. I nodded. So what now? She squeezed my hand, a small smile breaking through. We live together. Officially. We raise our kids, all of them, and we keep building this life. As partners. As equals. The kids clapped like they'd just seen a movie ending. Caleb yelled, Does this mean you're getting married later? Maybe, Selena said, looking at me. And then she kissed me, in front of the tree, in front of the kids, in front of the broken past that no longer defined either of us. It wasn't a proposal with fireworks. It wasn't a happily ever after. But it was real. And for the first time in years, real was more than enough. Mandy's wedding was held in a barn-turned venue just outside of town, one of those Pinterest-looking places with Edison bulbs strung across the ceiling and mismatched vintage chairs. She wanted something simple, but full of life. I don't care about centerpieces, she'd said. I care about the people sitting around them. Selena was a bridesmaid. I hadn't expected that, but Mandy insisted. She's part of this family now, she said. And the boys are coming too, right? They better wear little bow ties. Jeremy and Caleb did, reluctantly. Molly wore a crown of flowers and couldn't stop twirling. Brad and Janice helped wrangle the kids before the ceremony, their earlier doubts now softened into something warmer, understanding, maybe even affection. When the music started, I waited by the arch with Mandy on my arm. She smiled at me, nervous and glowing. You okay? I whispered. She nodded. Just don't let me fall in front of Grandma. You've got this, I said. Walking her down the aisle, I felt 100 memories rushing through me, scraped knees, spelling tests, soccer games. All the things I got to be part of, whether biology said I should or not. At the altar, I handed her off to her new husband and kissed her cheek. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. For being my dad. I stepped back and joined Selena in the front row. She reached for my hand without looking. I laced my fingers through hers. The ceremony was beautiful. Simple vows, soft music, laughter that didn't feel forced. During the reception, the kids danced like lunatics, and I caught Brad spinning Molly in slow circles while she squealed with delight. Then came the garter toss. I'd never cared for that tradition, but Mandy insisted. Just go with it, she said with a grin. The DJ made a joke, called me up. I played along, tossed the garter over my shoulder into a crowd of guys half my age. It landed squarely in Caleb's punch cup. Laughter erupted, and then I cleared my throat. Mind if I say something? The music faded. Heads turned. I turned to Selena. She looked confused, maybe a little nervous. I wasn't planning to do this tonight, I said. But sometimes life doesn't care about plans. I pulled the same ring box from Christmas out of my jacket pocket. She gasped. This time, I said, I'm not asking for perfect. I'm just asking for forever. For real. For us. Her hands went to her mouth. The room was dead silent. Molly tugged her skirt. Say yes, Mommy. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She nodded, then laughed, and finally said, yes. Yes, Dan. Of course. The room exploded in applause. Brad and Janice hooped. Mandy clapped through her tears. I slipped the ring on her finger while her children cheered. Our children now. And for the first time in a long time, there wasn't a shadow hanging over the joy. It was just love. Whole. Honest. Ours. Spring came fast that year, the kind that rushes in with warm winds and muddy shoes and new beginnings. The house smelled like fresh paint and toast most mornings, and the floor was usually sticky with juice or littered with crayon wrappers. I didn't mind. Not anymore. Selena left her job at Mel's in April. Not because she couldn't handle it. She could handle anything, and she had for years, but because we had a new idea. I needed help at the gas station and store. I was getting older, and I'd been doing it all myself since Arlene passed. Are you sure? She asked one night as we folded inventory slips in the living room. I looked at her over the rim of my coffee mug. There's no one I trust more. She started part-time. 3 weeks later, she was running the place better than I ever did. The regulars loved her. The books finally balanced without an ulcer. And when she set out a basket of free lollipops by the counter for kids, I swear our business doubled in goodwill alone. The kids flourished too. Jeremy made the soccer team. Caleb got a perfect attendance certificate and showed it to every customer who'd listen. Molly began calling me Daddy, like she'd always known me that way. I didn't correct her. One quiet Saturday, Selena and I took the paperwork out of the drawer, adoption forms. I expected her to hesitate, but she didn't. She just signed, her hand steady. They're yours already, she said. Might as well make it official. We told the kids that night. Molly clapped. Caleb fist-bumped me. Jeremy tried to act cool, but I caught him grinning when he thought I wasn't looking. Mandy got married in June, her real wedding this time, after the barn celebration had been more of a family promise. She asked me to walk her down the aisle again, even though technically I'd already done it. You're still my dad, she said. That part doesn't expire. Selena stood beside me in a navy blue dress that matched Molly's shoes. During the ceremony, I looked at her, then at the kids, then at Mandy glowing with joy, and felt something shift in me. Something settle. After the reception, we all went home together. Selena, me, and the 3 kids passed out in the back seat, mouths open, sticky with frosting. I carried Molly upstairs while Selena pulled off Jeremy's shoes. We tucked them in, turned off lights, then sat out on the back porch with 2 glasses of sweet tea and the sound of cicadas around us. You ever think about what this could have been, she asked, if things had happened differently? Every day, I said. She nodded, her hand finding mine. But I'm not sorry. Not anymore. Neither was I. Because the truth was, I'd spent decades chasing a picture of family that was never real, built on secrets, maintained with silence. And somehow, through loss and lies and grief, I'd landed in something better. Something chosen. Something earned. That night, we sat there in the dark, listening to our home breathe, watching our new life unfold in the shape of laughter and lullabies. It wasn't the family I started with, but it was the one I was meant to lead. And finally, I was home.